I arrived uninvited to Mother's Day lunch. Mom said, "Don't touch the food, just drink water. Your sister paid $3,000. My sister added, "Beluga caviar isn't for people like you." I smiled. She charged my card for the meal. I reversed it. My parrot Ronnie squawked, "Call the lawyer." I left a letter on Mom's seat. She read it, froze, I canceled there, and then 47 missed calls hit my phone. Can you imagine being told, face to face by your own mother and sister, that the fancy meal they're eating isn't for people like you? It turns out that same meal was paid for with my money, stolen right out of my account. And the worst part, my parrot, Ronnie, squawked, "Call the lawyer," right in the middle of it all, and that was just the start of the chaos. You won't believe what happened next. I showed up to Mother's Day lunch completely uninvited. I mean, not really invited. My sister, Victoria, had orchestrated the whole thing, a lavish affair at this ridiculously opulent restaurant, all polished marble and chandeliers dripping fake luxury. Mom was at the head of the table, her smile wide and bright until her eyes landed on me. "Oh, you're here," she said, her voice a little too sharp, a little too forced. It was a show, you know, the kind my family excelled at. I knew exactly what kind of show. Victoria had booked the whole thing, imported Beluga caviar, fresh oysters, crystal glasses sparkling with water. I knew because I'd seen the receipt. A cool $3,000, charged straight to my card. The same card she'd borrowed just a week before for a few essentials. I walked towards the table, trying to keep my face a neutral mask. Mom's smile actually twitched. "Don't touch the food. Just drink water. Your sister paid." Victoria's laughter was a soft, cruel melody. "Beluga caviar isn't for people like you." My blood ran cold, but I kept my face calm. I stared at her, sitting there in a designer blouse I'd probably paid for, that familiar smirk plastered on her face, the one she always wore when she thought she'd won. But she hadn't. Not yet. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and deliberately leaned back, just like her. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The storm was already gathering, but I ignored it. I glanced at the towers of seafood, the delicate silver cutlery, the sparkling crystal. "Actually," I said, a chilling calm settling over me, "I think I will have something to eat." I reached for a silver spoon and scooped up a delicate dollop of the dark, glistening caviar, letting it shimmer in the light. Victoria's smirk faltered. "Don't you dare! I paid for this. That's $3,000 of—" "You didn't," I interrupted, letting the words hang in the air. "I did. Or rather, my card did." Silence crashed over the table, thick and suffocating. Mom's face went a sickly pale, her fingers tightening around her glass. Victoria's jaw clenched so hard I thought it might shatter. "You think you're clever," she hissed, pure venom in her voice. "You think you can just show up here and make everything about you?" I smiled. Let her rage. Clever enough to reverse the charges yesterday. "So technically, you're all having lunch on my charity." Her face twisted, red blotches blooming on her cheeks. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I would," I said, taking another delicate bite. "And that's not all." I leaned over to Mom, sliding a discreet envelope onto her plate. She opened it, her eyes scanning the printed text. It was the cancellation confirmation for their $8,500 vacation. Her hand started to shake. "No," she whispered, a desperate plea. "Oh, yes," I replied, leaning back again. "Happy Mother's Day." Suddenly, a sharp, piercing voice shattered the thick silence. My parrot, Ronnie, who I had strategically perched on my shoulder, squawked with perfect clarity, "Call the lawyer!" A ripple of shock spread through the restaurant. Some guests stared. Others desperately tried to hide their smirks. Victoria's face drained of color, her mouth hanging open. My phone vibrated again, 1, 2, 10 times. I didn't need to check to know what it was. The chaos, the rage, the panic. I stood up, brushing invisible crumbs from my sleeves. Well, I'd love to stay, I said, my voice unnervingly calm. But I think you all have a lot to discuss. Victoria lunged to her feet, sputtering. You don't matter as much as you think. You're just I didn't hear the rest. I was already walking away, letting her words fade into the background. Let them scream. Let them fight. Let them finally understand that I wasn't just a tool, a credit card, a silent presence to be mocked and drained. Stepping outside, the sun felt warmer, the air fresher. My phone kept buzzing, calls, texts, desperate messages. I turned it off. They'd understand soon enough. When I finally got home, after that entire circus at the restaurant, my phone was practically burning with notifications. The first call was from Mom, then another and another. I tossed it onto the couch, staring at it like it was a bomb about to explode. But that was just the beginning. 5 minutes later, it rang again. This time it was Dad, his voice raw with anger. What have you done? You humiliated your mother and your sister. Do you think this is funny? I didn't answer. I just listened, letting his rage spill out. You're going to pay us back for that lunch. You ruined our vacation. Your mother is crying. She can barely breathe. I ended the call without a word. The phone went quiet for just a few seconds before messages started pouring in, one after another like a broken dam. Mom, how could you do this? I raised you better. You ruined our special day. Victoria, you're impossible. You've always been jealous of me. You love destroying everything. Dad, ungrateful person. If you don't fix this, you're done. I leaned back, listening to the frantic buzzing, watching the screen light up and die down. I felt nothing. No guilt, no regret. Just a strange, clear sense of calm. But they didn't stop. Calls from unknown numbers. Voicemails, Mom sobbing, Dad screaming, Victoria shrieking about how I destroyed the family. Then the family chat lit up. Aunt Linda, I can't believe you did this. Your poor mother. Cousin James, not cool, man. Family is everything. Uncle Rob, your mom's heart can't take this kind of stress. Are you proud of yourself? Proud? I almost laughed. For the first time, I didn't feel like the helpless fool who would crawl back, apologize, and clean up their mess. I muted the chat, left the phone buzzing on the table, and made myself a cup of coffee. But as I stirred the sugar in, something twisted inside me. Not anger, not shame. Something sharper, like a long-forgotten instinct finally waking up. I sat down with my laptop, opened my banking app, and started scrolling through my statements. It didn't take long to see it. The charges, the endless list of expenses I never approved. Victoria's shopping spree, spa treatments, designer bags, and of course, that $3,000 lunch. But it went deeper. Charges I didn't even notice before. Car rentals, hotel bookings, even a $500 charge for some wellness retreat. My hands tightened on the mouse. I pulled up my email, searched for every confirmation she had forwarded me. Dozens of them. Victoria had been using my card for months. Not just for essentials, but for everything. I kept digging. I pulled out an old external hard drive, the one I hadn't touched in years. It was Victoria's before she upgraded. I remembered she used to save everything there. Her backups, her photos, her messages. I plugged it in and there it was. A folder called FM. Inside, screenshots of chats, voice notes, even photos. Messages between Victoria and Mom, planning how to use my money without me noticing. My mother's voice, calm and sweet, saying, "Just tell him it's for something important. He always gives in." Another recording. Victoria's voice, dripping with smug satisfaction. "He's such a fool. I just take what I want and he never even notices." My vision blurred for a second. My own mother, my own sister, laughing at me, using me, but I didn't feel hurt. I felt awake. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Dad. "Last chance. Send the money and we'll forget this ever happened." I smiled, and then I did something I never thought I would. I opened the family chat. I unmuted it, And I started typing. I know exactly what you did. I know everything. The stolen money, the lies, and I have proof. Do you want to see it? The chat went silent. Typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. No one dared to speak. Then a single message from Mom. We can talk this out, sweetheart. It's just a misunderstanding. No, I replied. It's not, but you'll understand soon. I closed the chat and went back to the hard drive. Screenshot after screenshot, voice memo after voice memo. I started organizing them. A neat little folder of betrayal. My phone rang again. Dad again. I let it ring and then turned off the sound, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. If they wanted a game, I would show them exactly how I played. I didn't have to wait long. When the knock came, I took a deep breath, reached for the door handle and opened it. Mom, Dad, and Victoria stood in the hallway. Mom's face was a careful mask of concern. Dad looked like he was ready for a fight. And Victoria, well, she looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Come in, I said, calmly stepping aside. They walked in, and immediately Ronnie, my parrot, fluffed his green feathers and let out a cheerful squawk. Call the lawyer. Mom shot me a glare. Is that thing still here? Ronnie's part of the family, I said, closing the door. Please take a seat. They settled onto the couch, all three squished together like a jury about to pass judgment. Dad cleared his throat. Let's not waste time. You need to apologize for that disgusting scene you caused. You embarrassed us. I embarrassed you? I asked, leaning against the kitchen counter. Interesting. Let's talk about that. I reached for the first folder I had prepared, pulled out a stack of printed bank statements, and tossed them onto the coffee table. Recognize these? Mom's eyes narrowed. Victoria leaned forward, her face paling. Those are my transactions, she stammered. No, Victoria. They were my transactions on my card. Your spa days, your designer bags, your little getaway weekends. All of it. Did you honestly think I wouldn't notice? It was an accident, she snapped. I thought it was my card. It's an honest mistake. Honest mistake? I smiled, that cold feeling in my chest intensifying. Ronnie, what do we think of that? Liar, liar. Caught you now, squawked Ronnie, hopping excitedly on his perch. Shut that stupid bird up. Victoria hissed. I think he's being honest, I replied. And it's about time we all were. I pulled out the second folder. Screenshots of her chats with Mom. The ones where they planned to use my card without me knowing. Where Mom reassured her he won't notice. And even if he does, he won't do anything. Mom's face went white. That was just, we were joking. Joking. I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Ronnie, was it a joke? Joke? No. Scam? Yes, squawked Ronnie, his voice cutting through the thickening tension. Dad leaned forward, his knuckles turning white. You think you're so smart, huh? Digging up dirt like some detective. That doesn't change the fact that you owe us. Family sticks together. Family sticks together? I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. When? When you drain my bank account. When you use my card for a $3,000 lunch without inviting me. Or maybe when you planned a vacation with my money and didn't even bother to tell me. Silence. Victoria tried to speak, but I raised a hand. Not done. See, I've had enough. Enough of being the family wallet. Enough of being lied to. Enough of being your joke. Mom's voice was desperate now. We were just trying to keep the family happy. You've always had more. You never needed it as much as we did. More, I said, stepping forward, letting each word drop like a stone. You mean the life I worked for? The money I earned? The peace I tried to build? Ronnie fluttered his wings. No peace, just noise. Victoria's face twisted. You're just bitter because nobody cares about you. No, Victoria, I said. I'm bitter because I cared too much. I reached for the final envelope, the one with the letter from the bank. I tossed it onto the table. By the way, I canceled your credit cards. Mom, your automatic payments for the house? Gone. Dad, your little retirement fund you kept trying to siphon through my account? Blocked. You can't do that. Mom's voice broke. We'll lose everything. Ronnie cocked his head. Beggars can't be choosers. Listen here, you little troublemaker. Dad finally exploded, standing up, his fist clenched. But I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. Sit down, I said, my voice like steel. This is my house. You came here to talk. So talk. Dad's anger wavered. He glanced at Mom, who was already tearing up, then at Victoria, who just looked stunned. Mom clutched at her chest, her voice shaking. We're family. Family helps each other. No, Mom, I said, leaning forward. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't use one member as a walking ATM and then laugh behind their back. So much drama. Ronnie cheered, clearly enjoying the show. Victoria's phone buzzed, and she glanced down, probably hoping for an escape. Don't even think about it, I said. You're not leaving until we're done. You've gone too far. Victoria screamed. You think this is revenge? You think you're teaching us a lesson? No, I replied. I'm teaching myself one, that I don't owe any of you anything. Mom broke into sobs, leaning against Dad, who just looked defeated. I almost felt a pang of pity. Almost. But Ronnie beat me to it. Fake tears. Bye-bye, he squawked, spreading his wings and doing a little dance on his perch. I walked to the door and opened it wide. You're done here. We're done. Son, please, Dad whispered, his voice weak. I shook my head. I was your son when you thought I was an easy target. Now I'm just the problem you couldn't hide. They stood, stumbling over themselves, trying to find some last words, some final excuse. But nothing came. They filed out the door, broken and silent. I closed the door, and for a moment there was only quiet. Then Ronnie ruffled his feathers, looked at me with his beady little eyes, and croaked. Peace at last? Tea master. I laughed. A real, deep, freeing laugh. Yeah, Ronnie, I said, walking to the kitchen. Tea sounds perfect. I honestly thought they would give up. I thought they'd disappear, ashamed, finally realizing I wasn't a fool. But of course they didn't. It started with the calls, dozens of them. I ignored each one. Then came the messages. Mom, we need to talk, sweetheart. Please, this is a misunderstanding. Dad, you don't get to walk away like this. Answer me. Victoria, you're impossible to deal with. You ruined everything. I hope you finally understand how it feels to be alone. I blocked their numbers. Simple, clean. But they weren't done. Unknown numbers began lighting up my screen. Voicemails. Dad, furious 1 minute, weeping the next. Mom, trying the guilty, loving mother act, saying I was breaking her heart. Victoria, always vicious, always accusing. And then money. One morning, I logged into my account, and there it was, a refund. Thousands of dollars. The money they had drained, the luxury lunches, the spa weekends, even the vacation I'd canceled. Piece by piece, the stolen funds trickled back in. They were trying to buy me back. Ronnie squawked from his perch. Bribe, bribe. Cheap tricks. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. I could almost see them. Mom crying, Dad pacing, Victoria snarling, he'll come back if we just pay him back. But I didn't. I moved the refunded money to a separate account, left it there like a monument to their desperation, and I said nothing. The messages kept coming. Mom, sweetheart, we sent the money back. That shows how much we care. Please talk to us. Dad, we're still your family. Do you think money is more important than family? Victoria, I knew you were a snake. All you care about is cash. Cash. I laughed out loud. It was never about the money. It was about dignity. Something they never had. I returned to my life, blocked their new numbers, left the family chat without a word, unfollowed them on every social platform. My world grew quieter and they grew louder. My cousin Alex messaged me. Dude, what is going on? Your mom's losing it. She says you've lost your mind. Aunt Linda called. I just want you to know you can always talk to me, but your parents are suffering. Suffering? I almost pitted them. Almost. I changed my locks. Set up two-factor authentication on all my accounts. Changed my email passwords. They were panicking, and I wouldn't put it past them to try something desperate. But I wasn't afraid. I was free. Every morning, I woke up in my quiet apartment. I brewed my coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city wake up. No demands, no guilt, no phone calls sucking me dry. And Ronnie? Well, Ronnie thrived. Guess what? No money, he chirped one morning, dancing on his perch. Guess who's begging? Who, Ronnie? I grinned, sipping my coffee. Mommy, Daddy, Vicky. I burst out laughing. That little green-feathered troublemaker was my best friend now. The only voice from the past I didn't mind hearing. But the storm wasn't quite over. 3 weeks later, an email slipped into my inbox. My father trying a new tactic. A long, desperate letter. Son, please. We're struggling. We've refunded the money. Isn't that enough? Can't we move past this? Your mother's health is failing. Your sister is in a terrible state. You've proven your point. Please, let's be a family again. A family? They had no idea what that word meant. I didn't respond. A few days later, another email. This time, a copy of a transaction. They had sold some of their jewelry, scraping together even more money, trying to show they were serious. I watched them fall apart from a distance. My aunt texted me. Mom had started looking for a job at a local supermarket. Dad tried to borrow money from Uncle Rob, but was turned away. Victoria was calling up friends, trying to find someone who would lend her money. But the best part? They were fighting each other. Mom blamed Dad for letting this happen. Dad accused Victoria of pushing him too far. Victoria screamed that they were all failures without my money. Poetic justice. One rainy afternoon, a message from an old high school friend, Jacob. Hey, heard about the family drama. Sorry, man. If you want a fresh start, I've got a project I'm working on. Could use someone reliable. A fresh start? Reliable. Words I hadn't heard in so long they almost felt foreign. But I smiled. Sure, I'm interested. When I ended the call, I glanced at Ronnie. Looks like we're moving up, buddy. He fluffed his feathers. Moving up. Moving out. I ordered a new couch, swapped out the old curtains for something brighter. My apartment began to look like a place where someone lived, not just survived. The next week, as I left for my first meeting with Jacob, I saw another message on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. Please answer. I miss you. I didn't even need to check the voice. Deleted. As I walked out, the rain had stopped, the sun piercing through the clouds. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running or hiding. I was free. Ronnie's voice echoed from the window behind me. Peace at last. Exactly, Ronnie, I muttered, grinning. Exactly. They never called again. No more desperate voicemails. No more fake apologies. Silence. The kind I used to fear. Now it felt like freedom. My apartment transformed. Light, color, laughter. Ronnie, my loud-mouthed little parrot, danced on his perch, squawking, "Free bird! No bugs!" He wasn't just mocking them. He was right. Work thrived. Jacob and I launched the project and it took off. I wasn't just a wallet or a punchline. I was me, capable, respected, whole. Sometimes a faint ache stirred, a whisper of guilt, wondering if I'd been too harsh. But then I remembered the empty promises, the stolen money, the mocking laughter behind my back. Family wasn't a bond. It was a burden I chose to set down. One day a letter arrived. No return address. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I tossed it in the trash. And the only sound in the room was Ronnie's cheerful voice. Let go. Fly free. And I did. So, tell me, after hearing all this, What would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had to draw a line with family like this? I'd really love to hear your thoughts.